Howdy, folks. Sorry for my tardiness, but I do know that you can't fire me, so ICT does what ICT does. So, anyway, this is also the reason why I didn't do well working with other people because having a boss that told me I had to show up at a specific time, I can go home at a specific time, I can have off a particular week for vacation, competing with Carl. What's this guy talking about, Carl? Who's Carl? Just somebody I just pulled out of the thin air, being facetious. And now here I am as another deer. Good grief. See that? Santa Claus. You can't be Santa Claus without reindeer. Okay? I need chocolate chip cookies and milk. And we're set then. So anyway, why was I late? I'm sure inquiring minds want to know. Well, the boss who I introduced you to this morning, last minute, said we have to take our boxers for a ride. So I could not object. It was the way it was, and I thought I had my cell phone with me to tell you. I was just, well, I'll let them know. I'll send out a tweet and let them know I'll be a little bit late. But the boss said let's go, so I had to leave, and I left my phone on the ottoman at home. So we got back a little bit ago when I got on Twitter, and now here I am. So yes, my dogs are very spoiled. We take them out in the back of the pickup truck, and we just drive around with them and let them look at the cows and the scenery. They love it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what you saw this past week and what we're probably going to see over the next coming weeks. So I'm sitting here thinking about what some of you probably didn't understand in regards to the quote unquote liquidity void. I kind of want to clear some rumors up a little bit in this conversation as well. And you're probably going to hear an ambulance here in a second. Or maybe not. It's always drama on these things when I'm going live. Road rage. Reindeer coming out of nowhere. So, the liquidity void that I drew your attention to on the ES when we had that real big, sharp displacement lower the other day, that is an actual liquidity void. Okay. Over the years, because I've made mention of liquidity void, it was a term that people brought up when I was on Baby Pips. And Baby Pips members over there mentioned that that's a term that Chris Laurie uses. So back then, because I was teaching, I understood what they were trying to draw attention to, but I had every intentions of talking about it like you recently saw this week. And in fact, what you don't realize is that actually was taught for the very first time to even my private members. Like, they don't really understand the imbalance to the degree like that lesson was shown. I mean, they know there's sell side delivery, buy side delivery, an imbalance, a SIBI, BISI. But what is actually going on inside that you don't see? Without having a very, very short time frame, like a second chart or a 15-second chart, something to that effect, you won't really see those gaps, because a 1-minute chart and a 1-minute candle will smooth all that out. So it looks just simply like, well, just a down candle or an up candle. And you have probably looked at these things for a long time and never really seen any kind of relevance to the insight behind it. And just beneath the surface, there's the very things that's been hidden from you. So when you hear these folks out there talk about time charts are useless, well, if you're going to try to use time charts in your particular model that doesn't use time charts, then that would probably be a true statement. But time charts, time-based charts, are very influential in terms of teaching what it is I teach that is algorithmic, because the first principle with price delivery is what? Time, then price. So everything has to work around the element of time, certain times of the day, certain time frames, time of the month, time of the year. All those time influences have a major impact on what price is doing. And it has absolutely nothing to do with fundamentals, because we're talking about price delivery on a very short-term time frame. So short-term time frames are not noise, absolutely not. And one of the things that I kind of like want to clear up is back when I was on Baby Pips, okay, I kind of got nudged to basically do this whole discussion when I did the video. I'm not sure which one I did it on. When I do my little vignettes and I'm trading, I put Chris Daltrey's Renegade song, which was my old opener when I was on Baby Pips, when I did our quote-unquote Pro Traders Club over there. That whole liquidity void thing, instead of trying to go into a new vernacular over there, I basically just used what people were saying they were familiar with. They said, well, we're from Chris Laurie. Not everybody over there, obviously, but we looked at some of Chris Laurie's stuff, and he calls that liquidity void. I said, well, we'll use that. And they're like, well, why don't you do a Pro Traders Club here for us? So that's why I did what I did. So naturally, people were saying, hey, look, Chris Laurie this, Chris Laurie that. So I looked into his stuff early on when he was on forexmentor.com. And I mentioned many times that I felt that he was the one that was standing apart from everyone over there, because he was looking at things a little differently, even though he was heavy, like Fibonacci, and he put a moving average on his chart and stuff, which irritated me. But I'm not trying to beat the guy up, because I still think that if you don't like me as an educator, I think that you could find useful information from what he teaches. And I have a lot of students that came from him, but a lot of those students quickly realized what I do and what I teach and how I trade is light years beyond what he's ever taught. And that's not, I'm not trying to talk down, okay, but I just want to clear the air about this, because there's people out there saying that he's saying he taught me how to trade. And if that's the case, then I got to call bullshit, because that did not happen. Now, early on, I stated that I looked at his information. In fact, when Forex Mentor first became a website and they were pumping out all their stuff, I bought everybody's courses back then. There wasn't a course out there that I didn't already have. Everything on Forex Mentor, I had it. Vic Noble stuff, actually I got into some shit with Vic Noble in emails. I said, look, my order block stuff was starting to creep onto your website, and I'm not co-signing that. Okay. He goes, well, I looked in the back office and I noticed that you're in a lot of our courses. I said, yes, I buy a lot of shit. And if you look at what I'm doing, it's none of this Mickey Mouse shit you guys do on this website. None of it. But because of all that, and because I gave a nod to Chris Laurie saying, hey, look over there, we had worked out an agreement where we were going to do potentially some webinars, and I was willing to, give him a boost, because even then I had more of a draw than he did. So if you see how my character is, if I like somebody, I'm not trying to lord over them. I'm not trying to be the cool kid on the block that doesn't let anybody else come up. I want to see people that are genuine come up. That's why I tap people like Hannah, and I tap people like Corbs, and the guy Matt that does Trades by Matt. None of these folks, with the exception of Hannah, obviously, none of these folks subscribe to what I do. They don't know anything about IPTA. They don't know anything about order blocks. They just think, well, this YouTuber's got more following than me, and he's being kind to me, and he's trying to give me some publicity and some push. That's all I'm trying to do, because I think they're genuine people. And I think Chris Laurie generally is genuine. But we had an issue a couple years back where a lot of people were writing to him, because we were going to do webinars and such. And I was going to show up in the form of one of his workshops. Like I was going to be there. And a lot of my students were coming, admittedly, because I was going there. And I told Chris, I said, I don't want any money. He said, what kind of compensation do you want? And I was like, I don't want anything. I don't want anything. Like, I don't want you to increase any kind of money for it. And this is the God's honest truth. And if he's honest, he'll tell you this. And if he doesn't, I got emails and show you this is exactly what took place. But a couple people back then got a case of the ass. Okay. And it was the people on Baby Pips. Okay. The people like Pete Fader. Okay. That was hating the fact that I was growing and getting an audience, and, literally would piss and moan about how nobody pays attention to me. I'm out here doing this and I'm down here doing that. But because nobody gave a shit. Like, dude, you're dry. You might not like my voice. You might not like the things I was doing and all the, the video stuff that I was trying to make it entertaining. I was drawing an audience. I'm good at that. But once the audience came, they realized that I was giving out something that has value. And I didn't have to pay for advertising. I knew how to manipulate everybody's attention long enough to see, hey, this guy's got something different. That's all I was doing. But because of all that jealousy and envy, some of these assholes sat down and wrote emails to Chris Laurie and said, I'm not coming to your webinar or workshop if Inner Circle Trader's going. And because Chris is, tries to be a straight arrow and he wants to, have that type of image or whatever, he sent me an email back then. He says, Mike, I'm going to have to take a pause on that whole partnering up. So a lot of my students were upset because they were really wanting to go because I was coming and I wasn't coming now. So I explained to him, I said, he doesn't like the drama that I have worked up, and okay, that's fine. I get it. Some people find some of the tactics I've used in the past to get a crowd. That's probably not the best business model for them. That's okay. But that's the reason why they're where they're at with an audience. I'm not afraid to be controversial. Okay. Like this guy, Trader Nick, he does a lot of reaction videos now. If I'm going to be real honest, and I really want to be honest all the time, but I really want to be honest, but I'm going to say this carefully. Okay. Because sometimes when I say things like this, it sounds like I'm giving you an order. Okay. Subliminally, like, go over there and harass these people. I don't want you harassing anybody. Don't send any kind of text messages on their channel and leave comments and, being assholes. Okay. That's not what I'm doing this for. But I get a lot of emails saying, hey, what about this? And what about that? And Chris Laurie said he's not going to do webinars with you in the past. And because what took place, because he thinks you're a fraud. Well, it was because these individuals were sending an email to them saying, we're not going to come and I'll cancel my, interest in going there if ICT is going to be there. So he pulled back based on a number, I don't know how many, but a number of people said, hey, look, we're not coming. But I guarantee you that I have put millions in his hands because I gave him a nod, because I've made millions every single year, millions and millions and millions of dollars. Okay. Just doing what I'm doing. And he's the only person I've ever gave a nod to. And I'm not trying to kick him in the face now, but I got an email from one of my students that said, hey, look, I asked Chris Laurie if you were one of his students, and he said yes. So let me be very, very clear, and I'm going to spell this out in the finest detail so that way you all understand what's going on. If someone taught me something, I have always absolutely 100% given credit. I've never been afraid or ashamed to say that. I knew how to trade before Chris Laurie stepped out as an educator. Okay. I've been trading longer than Chris Laurie. I show you that I can trade. I've ran up accounts. I've shown you statements. I've done all that stuff, and I can do a lot more, and I'm willing to do more. But when I looked at everything on forex.com, or I'm sorry, not forexmentor.com, early on in the early 2000s, I bought everything because I wanted to see what nonsense was being taught, and pretty much it was the same regurgitated crap. But Chris's style was a little bit different, and I reached out to him. I said, listen, I looked at your Pro Traders Club, and he'll confirm this. I was only in there 1 month. That was it, 1 month. Now, most of what he had at the time was a lot of the Fibonacci stuff, and, you know, he looked at liquidity voids. He called it a liquidity void. And admittedly, I had an issue with that because it's really not a void in the sense that it's like I just explained to you. Okay, so I got a wild hair up my ass the other day when the student sent me an email saying that he said I'm his student. So here's the real thing. I subscribed to his Pro Traders Club to get a feel for what he was doing. And at the time, he would do, I don't know, sometimes 2 videos, sometimes an average of 3 videos a week. You never really seen him take a trade. He would put a line, like a little line segment on the chart if he was going to do like a live interaction with price action. He would put a little line saying, okay, we're going to hypothetically say we're going long here, and the stop would be below here, and we would watch what we're doing. And sometimes it would move, 10 pips. Sometimes it wouldn't. And it's okay. This is over. This is the example we're going to work with today, and that's it. And I don't know. I just didn't. I felt that there could have been more to it, but I never badmouthed him. I never said anything bad about him. And the ideas of looking at price without indicators, I felt that he was on the right path. And I said, if anybody that you're going to look at, studying just price, he's close. He's not nowhere near what you are now indoctrinated in, like the whole mentorship core content, well beyond his Pro Traders Club stuff, way beyond that. There is no similarities to that. And honestly, if I'm lying, any Chris Laurie student that is in both of our camps, you tell me I'm lying, and you tell me how I'm lying in the reply to that post I just did for this live session here, this Twitter space. Okay, because they all know that I've never badmouthed Chris, and I'm not badmouthing him here. But if this is true, I'm setting the record straight right now. The only thing that I picked up was his term of a liquidity void, because it was asked of me on baby pips, and I used that term so they could pretty much understand where I was going to take the lessons. I was going to expound on it, like you just recently saw, but a lot of drama took place on baby pips, and they accused me of fucking horseshit over there that I didn't do, and I left them, and I took all the videos down off of YouTube. Even though they kept the links up on their thing, they thought by locking the account that I couldn't go in and remove all the shit. That's why I did everything on video links, because I had control of everything. But the term liquidity void, I used that so that members that were familiar with him on baby pips, which generally outside of people that were not trading VSA crap and or the guppy system, that was the two main things that were in baby pips. Like that's what everybody was following, or if they were engaging at all on that forum, those were the most popular things at the time. So when I came over there and I was teaching this stuff, it was like, well, shit, this is something totally new. And everybody that had a thread over there, or a small audience, they were jealous. Like they were fucking hating me. They hated my guts, which I loved it. Every time I showed up in the chat room they had over there, we'd break it. Like it wouldn't work. There'd be too many people in there. And again, I'm not talking out my ass. This is real. It took place. So if you know that I said that I was going to teach for free on baby pips, like I was putting out videos daily, every evening, every single night, I'm putting a video up, some kind of market review, some kind of teaching. If I wasn't doing that, I was doing some long-winded post on the forum. And a lot of the members were like, hey, let's do our own version of Pro Traders Club, because they said they couldn't afford to stay with his thing. Okay, that sounds cool. There it is. That's why my old videos say Inner Circle Traders Pro Traders Club. It was me just giving them something for free. That's all it was. And if anybody at that time was asking me, and I'm still saying it right now, if you don't like me, go check out Chris Laurie. I mean, how hard is that to understand? I'm not giving a nod to anybody else. Now, I'm not actively out there looking for somebody else to be a comparable, alternative to me or even what he does. But we do not trade the same. We don't teach the same. My concepts are absolutely specific. One of the things that I told him when we would chat and we were talking about going into, because I felt that he has an audience out there. He just doesn't do a good job at marketing for it. Like he doesn't know how to tap into that. He doesn't use his social media correct. It's really dry. And I told him, I said, look, if you let me, I will make you viral. Like I will build you up. And I don't want anything for it. I don't want nothing. And he will confirm all this shit. I've never asked him for anything. Nothing. In fact, I was willing to give him more. I even told him, said, look, you're welcome to come here. Stay in one of my homes. Okay. We can hang out. We'll get to know each other and we'll build a business model together and we'll start doing workshops. We'll go around and do seminars and shit. And I don't want to be paid. He'll tell you that. I just love teaching. And my whole point was I was going to build him up. None of this shit is fake. None of this is a lie. None of this is contrived. It's all exactly what it was. But there is one thing that I picked up, which was his mention of an Asian range. Now, I'm going to tell you basically how he does it, and his students will confirm this, and you can find it in any video that he talks about it on YouTube, because it's there too. The Asian range, I don't even define it by the same time he does. Secondly, one end of the Asian range usually gets hit, and if that happens, it'll work to the other side of the Asian range. That's pretty much what he teaches. That's it. There is so much more to that. And when I looked at his referencing of it, I was like, huh, well, here's what I see there. And then now look at everything I talk about with an Asian range. I do standard deviations with that. The Asian range on Friday can be used for Monday's trading. You don't ever hear Chris Laurie talk about that. Nobody talks about that. Okay. That's the only thing that I picked up, was that little segment of price action in that time. But nothing, absolutely nothing has any correlation to how he uses it. And again, any student that's in both of our camps, you tell me, you reply to this post and you say I'm a fucking liar, and here's where it says this and this is where he does that. You do that. I'm inviting you to do that, because I'm telling you right now, I don't trade like Chris Laurie teaches. I didn't learn from Chris Laurie. Okay. And there's one little element in time that his student, I'm going to probably butcher her name here. I want to say her name's Maria. I think it's Maria. I believe, I'm almost certain. I put 90% it's Maria. It's probably not, but I think it's her. It's like, she's done, well with him apparently. And, she likes to trade this specific time, London lunch. And I studied that little area in there, and I was like, oh, it's a small little period of quietness. That's it. Is that something you trade with? No. I don't even have anything that really gives you any kind of play or trade that goes in there. So when I was in his Pro Traders Club for 1 month, I didn't learn anything. And the only thing I pulled out was he talks about a liquidity void and talks about gaps when sometimes they really aren't gaps. I didn't agree entirely with his description of a gap, but generally everything else was price action oriented. And it's good. It's a very good foundation for anyone, far better than going over to baby pips and learning their horse shit that they have in their little lessons. Because I think that is a lot of nonsense. You could strip that down into 2 lessons, take all the garbage of indicators out, take all of the shit that they talk about completely out of it, teach somebody how to look at a chart, understand what the time axis and the price axis is really showing you, and the relationship between time frames. what a 1 minute chart looks like in relation to a 5 minute, then a 15 minute, 30 minute, hourly, work your way all the way up to a monthly chart. If someone understands what that looks like and how price is fractal within those transitions of time frames up and down, lower time frame to higher time frame or higher time frame to the lower time frame. If you spend time with that, you don't need anything else from Baby Pips, because it's just for you to spend more time on there so you can get ad revenue. The more pages they put on there, when you click on them, the more ads they get. And I brought all kinds of traffic to their website, which I didn't care at the time. I don't care. And I never asked to be on their payroll. I said I'd be willing to do contributions, okay, if you want to make a special area where nobody really talks, that's fine. But I've never been on their payroll. I've never worked for them. And I think if we're honest with one another, I think they probably wish I was still over there, because that traffic was a lot. But that's the skinny on Mr. Chris Laurie and our history together. And I don't have anything against the guy, but if he is going around telling everybody that I'm his student, I'm going to say that's not true. Okay. Now, it is true that I paid for 1 month in his Pro Traders Club. I looked around, I looked at some of his things, and obviously in 1 month you couldn't watch everything he had back then, because he had like an archive of everything. And I was honest. I told him, I said, listen, I ripped all of your videos off your server within that month, much like anybody else would if they had the ability to do so. And is that bad? No, because I paid for the access for 1 month. And if I can go in there and use tools that allow me to get all those videos downloaded, then that's fine. If I had a service where I had made everything available at one time, I couldn't be mad if someone did that. That's the reason why I did my month by month by month. So that way other people wouldn't do that. Okay. And I told him, I said, you got to change the way you did your shit. Because he reached out to me and said, hey, look, this was years later. He says, can you take a look at what I got now and tell me what you think? And I said, like your website and stuff, like how you're doing it. And I told him, I said, listen, you would be bigger. You have a stronger audience, more retention probably, if you were more specific about how you teach. Because what I saw was a whole lot of scattered little pieces. And, it's hard to put those pieces together. Whereas, like what you just saw with the 2022 mentorship, where I took pieces that everybody has seen parts of. I put those parts together, each cog together, and it makes a beautiful machine that spits out money as an ATM machine. You don't really have that. Now, let me rephrase that, because I don't know right now. He may have changed it beyond what I saw. But a few years back, he had he took my advice. I told him, I said, take what you teach at your workshop. I know you don't want to do this because you feel like you're giving it all away, but this is how you grow as an educator. And what's the difference? If you're going to give this shit at a workshop, if someone's going to rip your shit off, they're going to take it from the workshop and go, do what they're going to do with it. So he was like, I have a book with like 300 pages of notes and such, and I don't like that to be in other people's hands. I was like, well, if you're teaching, it's got to be in their hands. So I told him, I said, let me take a look at what you're showing me, and I'll give you my advice and my opinion about what you should do. And I went one more time back into his Pro Traders Club. It was free access. He gave me a username and password. I did not pay for it. And I told him, I said, you need to start teaching it differently. And you need to be more specific about how you do things. Some of your lessons, you can take those old lessons and just put them in places that make sense in the right order. But you also have to clean up a lot of the stuff in there, because you have a lot of videos in there with things that don't make any sense, and they're time wasters. Like there's no real format to what it is you're doing. And you got to be very specific about what you're doing with this concept. Where does it fit in the grand scheme of things? Where does that even make sense? Why should you even study this? What part of this in your approach to trading, where does it go? What use is it? Okay. It's one thing for me to talk about a breaker, but if you don't understand why liquidity is going to be taken above an old high or below an old low, the breaker is going to be, what's a breaker? You follow what I'm saying? So I'm kind of like using my vocabulary and concept to kind of explain, because obviously I'm not going to sit here and tell you what he does, because that would be rude. And if you want to see what he does, then go over and do it. I'm not getting any kickback for it. But he he listened to my advice, and then he did some streamlining. And then once he had that done, he gave me access to look at it. And I said, this is way, way better than it was. He removed several years of his other stuff where it wasn't really all that great. It was very more or less what you see, thrown around on Telegram channels, his old quote unquote, and we used to both laugh together, his quote unquote pro traders trading course, when nothing in that thing was anything professional. Like it wasn't even anything remotely close to anything would be considered professional. It was retail stuff. It was all retail stuff, divergences and Fibonacci stuff, and it was just basic support and resistance, main thing. He was a real big, and still is a real big proponent of just classic support and resistance. And I've always had a problem with people that do that, and in this regard, he's not exempt, because just saying support and resistance, what support and what resistance? Which level are you going to call support and resistance? And that's the reason why that approach is so hit and miss, and why retail traders can't find consistency and continuity. Because if it was just simply picking a support or resistance level, then everybody would have a far better chance of being profitable versus 90% losing their money in the first 90 days or less. So he cleaned up his presentation, thanked me for my time, and that was it. I have not asked him to do any partnership stuff again. I don't have any interest in it. I still send people, when they email me all the time, say, hey, is there anybody else that you think that I could learn from? And I said, depending upon where you are, if you have gone through everything that's on my YouTube channel, please, and Chris, if you're hearing this, it's not meant to be disrespectful. There's really no need to go to Chris Laurie stuff. Now, if you haven't spent a lot of time with my concepts, go to Chris Laurie first, because you might find him as a better educator than me. I'm not claiming to be the best mentor. I'm just claiming to be the best trader. And I know my stuff works. I've proven it works. People all around the world now are doing it. But don't let that also be a selling point that says, no, I'm not going to look at Laurie because ICT's got receipts now and he's got people saying they're profitable. Because I know Chris Laurie has profitable students. They're in my group too. They were making money. They just were interested because we were going to do workshops together. But because of all the drama that I sometimes work up to draw a crowd, okay? Listen, you want to get somebody to check out what you're doing? Let there be smoke. Because where there's smoke, there's a fire. And I'm always bringing fire. And I've always operated. I've always done that. A little bit of drama, a little bit of controversy. You can't have it without me. You can't have it without me. And once you come out and you spend some time with me, you don't have to like me as a person. I'm not here for friends. I'm not here for that. I'm here for students that want to learn, because that to me that's fuel. I love it. That keeps me young. I love it. When I have a new wave of people that come to me that want to learn, I feel young. I feel my heart's racing, because I love teaching, because this is so fun. It fucking works like a Swiss timepiece. There's nothing like this. Nothing like this. But no, Mr. Chris Laurie did not teach ICT how to trade. Yes, I saw his stuff. Yes, I think it's a great foundation for someone that has not really spent any time technically as a trader. If you're using a lot of indicators and stuff, and you don't like the way I'm teaching, or if you can't just find your way with me, check him out. I don't look at anybody else in the industry and say that they're worth listening to. And again, you can take that and dismiss it as well and think that your opinion doesn't really matter, ICT, but I'm just being me. I'm being honest. So I wanted to clear that up. Okay. So back to this liquidity void that I was teaching you on. There are things in price action that a time-based chart has the advantage in showcasing that you otherwise wouldn't know. When you have a imbalance where the price moves sharply lower, this real big candle, depending upon whatever time frame you're looking at, it doesn't make a difference. If you have a very large elongated candle and you have a candle prior to it and a candle after that that creates that imbalance that we look at as a SIBI. SIBI is a sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency. That means it's going to be a big down candle. Inside that candle, you're going to be looking for what I just showed you, small little gaps. And you have the benefit of finding them if you're using very, very small time frames, like a 1 minute, a 1 second, 5 second, or 15-second chart. Now, I get asked all the time, like when I'm scalping intraday, what time frames do I use? I use a 1 minute or less. That's what I'm using. That's also the reason why I don't care what type of trade I'm doing. I can still enter whatever time frame or style of trading setup that might be. Say short-term trade, like I'm going to hold it for a couple of days, which has been very, very rare. I'm holding one contract over the weekend. You saw that with the ES. But rarely am I holding, beyond the session. When the New York session closes, I'm usually square on the day and I hold nothing. I'm flat. So, and it's only because of the volatility and all the crap that's going on. If we ever get through this shit, then I'll go back to doing short-term trading, because there's lots of money in that. And there's not a whole lot of babysitting. I can still pyramid and let them roll and get a couple hundred points or pips in the market. I'd like to go back to Forex, but my thoughts about that. I don't want to go on that and mix up this conversation with that either. But when you have that imbalance, a SIBI, you're looking at a big candle that's down, and you go through that SIBI and you look for those tiny little breaks in the lower ultra short-term time frame. And you're only going to see that with a time chart that shows 1 second, 5 second, 15 second. Why does ICT use TradingView? Because I can teach you how to do what I do in that platform, because they give you the access to those ultra short-term time frames, because it's giving you a greater detail beneath the surface that nobody else is aware of, because you're locked into your platform, Ninja Trader. You're locked into your platform, C Trader or Sierra Charts or Super Charts or TradeStation or whatever the fuck you're using. It doesn't make a difference. I'm giving you an approach that way. I'm not jumping around doing every other fucking possible platform out there. Look, I have people from all these companies reach out to me all the time. Hey, do you want to start doing a partnership? We will give you this if you get this many people to sign up. Fuck all that. I'm not an introducing broker. I'm not going to ever sign up with that shit. Okay. I'm not going to rep your funded account company. I don't want to fucking deal with your brokerage bullshit. I don't give a fuck about your money. I make more fucking money I'm ever going to fucking need. I don't need partnerships. Okay. So when I tell you about something, like when I mentioned AMP, I said they fucked with me and I brought the receipts. Okay. I'm not out here telling you to go to any broker. I'm not out here telling you to go to any one particular funded account. I'm not in bed with any of these motherfuckers. I'm the straightest arrow you're going to get. I have no incentive to butter you all up to go into business with any of these people. That's why I tell you all the time, a brokerage firm is an off limits discussion for me. I'm not an introducing broker. I'm not getting tied up in all that bullshit. And they're all assholes as far as I'm concerned. Okay, there you go. But if they really fuck up something and it's in my bag, I'm going to tell you about it. And I don't give a fuck what they do. Worst thing they're going to do is close my account. Fuck off. Believe me, there's other fucking people out there I can open up with. I don't give two shits about your fucking brokerage firm. But they made right, so I retracted it on my YouTube channel. So there's the history on that as well. Long story short, these 1 second charts, these 5 second charts, these 15-second charts, they're going to show you porous price action. Porous price actions where there's little tiny actual gaps between one candle before and the next candle that forms. That little gap, that is a real liquidity void. Now, a liquidity void is that when we go forward, we're not talking about Chris Laurie's definition of a liquidity void. It is the absence of any liquidity at all. No buy side or sell side. There's an actual gap in the chart. My students know that is always what we refer to as a real liquidity void, where there's a real actual gap. There's no price data at all. That absolutely is a void in liquidity. It's void of any trading. That's a definition that should make sense to everyone. So inside of any buy side imbalance or sell side imbalance, BISI or SIBI, you're looking for those small little micro fractures in price where there isn't a smooth connection between all candles. Time charts are the only way you're going to see that, folks. Fuck all these other clowns that tell you, oh, time-based charts, you got to have the Heikin-Ashi, the Renko, the fucking range bars. Fuck that Mickey Mouse shit. None of that fucking matters. None of it. None of that shit. An algorithm is not looking at fucking Renko. It's not looking at Ichimoku, Yokiman, whatever the fuck you're going to make up. It's all bullshit. Okay? It's open, high, low, and close, and time. That's it. That's all it is. That is it. You need to know where price is going. That's the mystery that you need to figure out. And you don't need to know bias to know that, because you can see where the draw on liquidity is intraday on a 1 minute chart. There's several places it's going to reach for. Now, depending upon the range for where the market price is now and where it's likely to go for a run on stops or rebalance, hey, guess what? That's an opportunity. But ICT, it's only 3.5 handles. Well, guess what? 3.5 handles, that happens at least half a dozen times intraday, all day long throughout the course of a day. You can find very, very low risk 3.5, 4 points in the S&P easily. And you don't think you can make money with that? You don't think you can make money with that? I just took $6,000 to $44,000 in 2.5 weeks just doing that. Real money, folks. Not a demo. Boom. So you get wrapped up in all these things that are not really controversies. It has to be a big trade of 50 to 1 because these quote unquote SMC traders, they're all doing 50 to 1, 200 to 1, and they're all still trading on micro lots. It's been 3 years now. 3 years, and these cats are still on micro lots. Why? You can't make money? What the hell's wrong with you? Because if that's what SMC is, then obviously SMC, their way, is full of shit. And then I understand why everybody thinks what I've been doing and what I've authored and created and made available to everybody. When I say it's smart money concepts, which is what I dubbed, okay? I dubbed that. That's me. That's what I've been teaching. That's what I was calling it on fucking Baby Piss when I was doing all my teachings then. What is this? It's smart money concepts. This is what the smart money does. Well, naturally, now when you have all these YouTubers, and Trader Nick, I'm going to come back to you. I didn't forget you. Well, all these folks out there talking about SMC traders. Yes. Largely, they're a bunch of assholes that have no idea what you're talking about. But you can't lump me into that. That was the whole point of me coming out here this year, bringing receipts, showing you what really you don't know, and introducing the real me, showing you who I am with character. Like who is the guy behind this bullshit? It's me. I'm talking to you. I'm a genuine person. I love my students. I absolutely want to teach people and help them find their way. And listen, what I've shown you this year, my audience is as big as it's ever been. I'm going to be real honest with you. I could have taken in another $50 million just this year instead of doing it for free. Now, you find a motherfucker walking this planet that's going to say, fuck you. I don't want your $50 million. Fuck you. I don't want your money. $50 million. That's a lot of money. And I could have been doing exactly what I've been doing this entire year. Instead of just making multiple copies of the videos and putting them in different user groups, I did it for free. I'm spending time on Twitter. I'm pointing to things before it happens, just like I did for years in my mentorship. When everybody outside of it was saying, he calls both sides in the marketplace. He does a wishy-washy. You don't know what he's going to do. You've never seen that with me. And I understand, because these people on Twitter, they draw their little lines. This is where it could go if it's going to go up. This is where it's going to go if it's going down. Well, fuck, anybody can do that. Shit. My 15-year-old son can do that. And he don't even know what the hell a chart looks like. He's not interested at all. Okay, there you go. If that's what you're going to take as SMC or someone that's, let me tell you something. There are people on Twitter, okay, that have blocked me I've never even mentioned their fucking name before. Like, I've never even mentioned these people. I don't even know who they are. Chart champions. Who the fuck is that? I was looking at it, I said, okay, here's a recommended thing. And my name got linked into that. And I was like, okay, let's see what this guy is. I'm blocked. What the fuck did I do to these people? I don't even know who they are. Who the fuck is that? I don't know. Probably somebody fucking took my shit and repackaged it. I don't know. I'm taking a guess. If not, I apologize. But it's probably what it is. Because I don't remember ever talking about that that man or person or whatever it is. It may be a gal. But long story short, if if the collective opinion in the community at large is that SMC is a bunch of douchebags and fakes and blah blah blah, based on what I've seen, then yeah, that is a true measurement because I've seen the same thing. I've seen that. That does not mean that I'm that. Now I can be a prick because if I'm not being a nice Mr. Rogers mentor, I am a dick. I am a prick and I am an asshole. And I got no problem being that when it's warranted. I don't like being that. I mean, nobody really likes to do that. But I'm not what they are. And I have no problem bringing receipts and proving and saying it beforehand and giving you a level of detail and precision that is absolutely unrivaled. And I hope that anyone that's paid any bit of attention this year, you have seen that. Now you all are a collection of witnesses that are outside my mentorship. So you know me, you know who I am, you know what motivates me, and you know I really care. You care what other people think now about me? If you do, then you haven't been paying attention. Now let's go back to Trader Nick. This young guy, I didn't know anything about him. I never said anything about him bad. And he put up a video that I didn't even know about, but somebody else came up and did a video kind of reacting to his view on smart money concept traders. And I was like, I got into the video. It wasn't even probably 3 minutes. It was less than like 5 minutes or less. The guy was like, listen, Nick, you don't even know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, okay. As soon as you say smart money concepts, immediately I'm in a fit because you're talking about my life. That's my whole life's work there. That's me. So naturally, you may be leaving me out of the conversation, but you can't leave me out of the conversation because it's mine. It's my creation. It's my work. It's my whole life. 3 decades of this shit has been wrapped around all that development. Now, naturally, I didn't comment on the reaction video, this guy of Trader Nick's channel. I went right to Trader Nick's video. And I watched the whole thing. And I felt that it was balanced. It wasn't a sales pitch for my concepts. It was, he didn't appreciate, the way the community at large acts. But that also put a big old bullseye on him. And the people that are very passionate about what it is they learn from me, they come in like a horde. I never, ever, ever, ever tell people to go over and troll anybody. I have in the past said, go encourage them to join Robbins. That's the only time I've ever done that. But that's not going over there and saying, hey, let's traumatize this guy or girl. It's just to get them to, hey, look, we're all watching. Why don't you go do that and stop talking? Just go dance. And that's all I've ever done. Now, I didn't do that with Trader Nick, and I don't think it's warranted. But if he wants to go, let's go. But I listened to his video, and I got this impression, like, the younger me would have stirred up a whole bunch of shit. Okay, I could have had a lot of fun with that situation, but I said, you know what? What he said was balanced. I can see what he was saying. I don't agree with his trading style. I don't think what he's doing makes any bit of sense. Maybe he makes a little bit of money. He'd make a whole lot more money if he watched my videos and studied it. He says he watched a few of them, but I think if he really put some time into it, he'd really become profitable and his equity curve wouldn't look like it does. And he would be more smooth and it would be more dramatic to the upside. But that's just me. That's a biased opinion. But I basically commented and said, I thought it was a well-balanced video. And he took it down because a lot of people were coming at him, which that's one of the things I don't like. Like, I don't like anybody that has taken my concepts and want to go around with it like a sharp stick and poke people in the eye with it. Like that's not why I taught this stuff. I didn't spend my entire life to create some kind of weapon to go out there and troll and bully and look down on everybody else. When I have people in my community that are, struggling, or they say, hey, look, I'm having a hard time doing this. I feel like I'm a failure. You watch how I respond to them. I always correct them and say, look, you don't talk negative about it. And it's not because I'm trying to sweep, a bad experience with a student under the rug, because I know they exist. I have members in all of my enrollment years. There are some students in each one of them that can't do what I'm teaching you. And they still can't do it, even though I've taught the 2022 model. But yet you're seeing everybody coming out there proving they're getting funded, proving they're getting withdrawals. They're taking money out of the marketplace using what I taught for free. So the argument about it doesn't work, you scammed me, these things aren't profitable, I've already kicked that shit down the road. Bring whatever fucking lawsuits you want to bring, because I got all kinds of fucking money. I got all kinds of fucking proof. I got all kinds of fucking testimony all around the fucking world. They're all using it. So what's the problem? You aren't doing something right. That's it. That's all it is. But you can't take that toxicity and go around and say in a blanket statement that it doesn't work. In the same scope, flip that coin. You can't learn from me and find profitability and now think that your shit doesn't stink. You can walk around and look down on everybody else, because number one, I did that shit when I was 20. I know why you guys are doing it, because you feel like you've arrived. Like, I'm a big shot now. I'm a fucking Billy Badass. Big bollocks, okay? No. You're the same person that just discovered something, okay? And you're not even that seasoned in it yet, okay? So you're still a baby in this. But you want to walk the strut like you're the cock of the walk, and everybody should respect you. And you're never going to get the respect that way. You're never going to get it. Never going to get it. The only reason why I got the level of respect I got is because I literally proved my shit. I didn't prove what I could afford to pay for. I proved I know what I'm talking about for years, undeniably. And I had a lot of fun blurring that line, getting people to think one way or the other. But when it came time to bringing it to the stage and showing you, here's what it looks like. And I've enjoyed it. In a lot of ways, I don't want this year to end, but it will. And I have to go back to doing what I had promised my private group. But I told them I have to take care of this. I got to clean this bullshit up. And then here it is. You're seeing it. You're tasting it. But I don't want any of you to take what I've taught to get weaponized by it and go around to other people. Because there's people out there that make money. They don't do anything with an order block. They don't do anything with a fair value gap. And what happens by that toxic approach to confronting everybody else? Because I'm going to tell you something, okay? If you have learned from me and you've been doing that kind of shit, you're going to come across somebody one day. They're going to know exactly how to fucking deal with you. And you might be just now finding profitability, and they've been doing something that's outside the way I trade. Because I have associates in this industry that make millions of dollars, and they don't trade anything like I teach. But you're going to get embarrassed one day because you're going to tap the wrong fella. The wrong person is going to give you a fucking wake-up call, and that's going to be very, very painful for you. You're going to feel like you want to crawl under a rock. So you're going to get humbled one day. Just like I humble a lot of these guys you've seen over the years. They think they're this, they think they're that. Oh, you don't ever see them with a live account? Boom, I'm doing a live account. And I'm making more money than they make in 4 months. They get real quiet. Now, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that kind of person, because it looks like what? A show off. I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy doing it, because my flesh loves that. But I don't want to be that 20-year-old me. I like being this boring, fuddy-duddy kind of mentor. I like that because, well, I'm not obligated to you. I don't owe you another magic trick or another Olympic feat. I don't need to do those things. And it frees me up to feel the real inspiration to show you when I feel like doing something, then I'll do it. When I was younger, I wanted to do the very things that these young SMC guys, okay, they parade around and they show, I guarantee you, they probably have 15 different demo accounts. And they probably even have those rented MT4 servers. Because think about this, think about the level of fraud that one could do. If you know my vocabulary and you know what can be explained in the way I trade live, if you had that vocabulary and a rented MT4 server, what is a rented MT4 server? It's where they take MT4 and they're using a white label broker, which is a broker that's not really a live broker. So you can go in there and type in trades like you got in at that price and where you got out at another price. And it'll show like it says it's real. Now, I don't know this because I've done it, but Adam Webb did a wonderful expose on that back on Twitter a number of years ago. And everybody caught wind of that. So naturally, because if you were in that time frame, you watched me run up all those accounts, $5,000 account up to $1 million and $100,000 account up to several million. They were all demo. And I did not use an rented MT4 server. It was just simply me doing what you just watched me do with TradingView. I'm doing trades. I'm pyramiding. I'm trading both directions intraday. I'm running it up, risking 4 to a maximum of 5% per trade. That's a lot. That's a lot of risk. The average person can't do that consistently. They don't have to read price. Okay. But the expectation was, if ICT ran that up, like he had to have been cheating. I didn't cheat shit. I did a lot of trades. I sat there over and over and over again, building up, building up, building up, building up, doing what you see me showing you examples of. I'm in AMP with a live account brokerage firm. Here's the deal. Okay. There's a lot of talk about ICT can't do this and ICT can't do that. ICT only talks about Robin's Cup. Well, guess what? No Robin's Cup necessary. I'm sitting here and I'm proving it every single day. Win, 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 win. I don't need to fake a statement. I don't need to have to do any Photoshop. TradingView links it directly. All I got to do is drag that thing up and you can see there's money being made. And it shows you exactly where my entries are. You can't fake it. That's why I did it this way. I told you this year I was going to show you. But you can't take that kind of stuff. Once you learn how to do it, well, I guess you can because people are doing it. But you should not be going around telling people, hey, look, you suck because you're using indicators. Or you suck because you're not doing things precise. You're chasing price. What you're doing is the same thing I did when I was 20 years old. I wanted to be validated. I wanted to feel significant. And because there's so many of you, some of you don't get the attention from me that you thought you should get. And if I don't respond to your email, because I get lots of them, it's easy for you to go out there and try to find your significance by doing what you think I do. Go around there and bullying people. I'm not bullying anybody. I will bully a motherfucker if he thinks he's going to come over and talk shit to me or hide in their little circle, talk about me, but not really call my name out. Call my motherfucking name. I'll come to your house. You're doing live streams. I'll show up in your live stream. Nobody's talking once I show up in your live fucking stream, though, isn't it? I don't like doing that kind of shit. Okay. But some of you young shots are just, you like that. And that's one of the things I wish I could go back in time. And I wish I could control myself so I didn't do those things. Because I'm a terrible influence. I'm a terrible influence to young men and some older men that like to live vicarious through me. because I am not a strong mentor when I do things that would otherwise give the impression that going out and trash talking someone or saying their shit don't work. That's one of the things I wish I could undo. I just wish I could do it, but I can't. And honestly, when the next guy, because it's going to happen, somebody else is going to try to talk some shit and then try to make a name for themselves. Present 24% on my FX book and then shit the bed and only, show 13%. You know, all that talking stuff, okay, will make me bite back. And then they won't do shit and we'll be back at square one. It's always the same thing. I chase cars. Okay. I do. I wish I could reel it in, but if I don't respond to these asshats like they've done in the past, oh, he ran away. I'm not running away from anybody. And then the younger guys see this stuff and they're like, yeah, this is how I'm going to be. I'm going to learn how to do this and I'm going to go out there and fuck everybody up. I'm going to tell everybody they're full of shit. I'm going to go to their YouTube channel. I'm going to go to their Twitter feed. I'm going to go to their Instagram comment sections. And I'm going to do this and I'm going to terrorize them. I'm going to be a menace. Well, I was like that. But go to the root cause of why you're doing it. You want to feel significant. Here's the easiest way to be significant. Fucking trade. Trade. Make millions of dollars. Live your life well. People are going to notice. I guarantee you they will notice that. That significance is much more significant than simply trying to get online clout. Because honestly, I love all my students and I believe that you see a sincerity in me as an educator. And I want you to know something. As much adoration I have towards all of you as my students, I could absolutely live the rest of my life never, ever communicating with any of you ever again. I don't need this, okay? I love doing it. I don't need the interaction, but I love doing it. When you're young, like I was on America Online, when I was new money and I was doing things that felt like I was skillful, buying in perpetual bull markets, it gave me the false sense of knowing what I was doing. But beneath the surface, I had no clue what the fuck I was doing. None. I had no idea. I was using a bullish divergence on a 1 hour stochastics if the moving average on a daily chart was pointing up. That's right out of Larry Williams' How I Made $1 Million Trading Commodities last year. That book. That 1970-year-old book. It works. If you're in a strong bull market, that stuff will work for you. If you buy a bullish divergence on a stochastics on an hourly chart, when institutional order flow is bullish on a daily and weekly, and you're trading down into a fair value gap or you run a short-term low, and that divergence occurs on the indicator, your retail shit will work then. I didn't know that when I first started doing it. That's what I discovered. When I was going through my charts and seeing, why did my trades win? Like, why were they winning? The things that I have in my core content. Then I realized that, fuck, I don't need these indicators. All I got to do is look where are the liquidity points above the marketplace and below. Where is there an imbalance? Okay, now where is price going to? Because think about what the root solutions in all of my winning trades were. I was right on my direction. Not bias, the direction. All my trades that won had a centralized common denominator. I knew where it was likely to go to. Above. Above what? Some old high in my chart. I was always exiting way before a quote-unquote resistance level. I never wanted to wait until it got to an old high. I wanted to get out early because I was impatient. I was a young man. I wanted it right now, just like this culture, but today it's like on steroids. I mean, look at these folks. There's so many people popping up with YouTube channels. Learn ICT's method, ICT mentorship in 5 minutes. That's a joke. That's clickbaity as shit. They're going to get a lot of views, But no one's learning how to do what I do in these 5-minute trainers. It ain't going to happen. Trust me when I tell you it's all bullshit. But I get it, and I don't mind it. It's like publicity. There's all kinds of ICT stuff on YouTube, most of which is not even worth watching. But I gave everybody permission to go out and use my stuff to get their video clicks and make their money, because we're going into hard times. And if I can carry that and help you make your money, I got strong back. I can carry all that, because all you're going to do is eventually come back to, okay, well, what did ICT say on the matter? And you'll have to go through a long lecture, but you'll know what I'm talking about and what you should be focusing on if you're really here to learn. But going around as a 20-year-old, sharp sticking in the eye of everyone else, saying everybody else's method sucks and stupid, these people are making money. They don't have to fucking subscribe to what we do. And honestly, this is what I said about my students when they start making money. You learned what it is that I do. You see it works, and you're making money. Why do you give a fuck what these other people say about me? Oh, but they say you're a fraud. But you've been with me for years, and you see me doing what you all have witnessed this year. Every single day, every single week, before the fact, where's it going? One direction. And then you see me executing in it. Okay, so what do you do with that? You can't dismiss it. You can't say, oh, he's using cherry-picked. The direction and where it's going, that's already in stone. It's in those 144 characters or less, and no tweet ever gets deleted. I've removed all of the bullshit. You have no excuse why you can't trust me. I've walked the walk and talked the talk. But other people out there have been making money before ICT ever opened his mouth. I'm cognizant of that. All I'm saying is even if you are profitable, just take a look at what I talk about. I guarantee you it will improve what you already do. That's all. And you don't have to thank me. You don't have to leave a comment. You don't have to thumb up my video. Just take a look at what it is that I teach. And I promise you it will have a lasting impression on you as a trader, how you think about price, and it'll increase the likelihood of your trades being profitable. And you'll probably learn how to hold the trades longer because you'll understand why it's going where it's going. But I know there's in this industry, there's never been an industry like this one where ego and pride has such deep claws and hooks in people. And I know what that feels like because when I was 20, I felt all that. When I saw how Larry Williams, back in the 90s, he was a big deal. Today, you all look at him as like, okay, well, he did something one time in 1987, which nobody's repeated. But he had also very, very low margins. And low margins will help you do a lot. I'm convinced that he would never, absolutely ever be able to repeat that right now with these elevated margins. He couldn't do it. No way he couldn't do it. And if you're listening, Larry, that's a personal challenge. You might be old, but if you still can trade, you can do it. But the major issues that I have as a mentor is I wish that people would not take what I've taught and use them as a reason for conflict. Because ultimately, I'm going to be the receiver of all that bullshit, and it was unjustified. Because if you look at any time I've ever acted up, it's only because some Yahoo came to me and talked some shit, and then they walk away doing nothing when I'm ready to dance. And that's grown tiresome. Like I'm worn out with it. I'm bored with it. And there's always going to be, when it's time for me to just sit down and not be engaging any of this anymore, or if I'm gone, the Lord takes me, there's going to be somebody else that comes up that's hot, and there's always going to be people that want to take shots at that person because they're the hot person. They're the one that you build clout on. And I don't want any of my students going around doing those types of things. I don't co-sign for that. I don't like that kind of shit. Um, it's needless. And like I said with my own students, if you're making money, you learned how to do this. I'm not a fraud. I'm not a fucking scammer. Who gives a fuck if they think that, if they're not here? If they're not part of this community, they think that, who gives a rat's ass? Do you honestly think that my life is going to fucking change because somebody thinks I'm a fucking fraud just because that's their opinion? Who gives a fuck? I'm going to sleep the same way I'm sleeping, eat what the fuck I'm going to eat. Everything's going to be the same way tomorrow, next week, until the Lord says it's different. Period. It doesn't matter what everybody else's opinion about me is. My only opinion is what my students think. And that's why I pour myself into teaching. I make myself as plain as I possibly can. And maybe that isn't always the best delivery in terms of the teaching. Sometimes I can go off track a little bit, but you'd be surprised if you knew how many times I plan all of these deviations, because I know there's people that are listening that are lazy as fuck. They're lazy as shit. And I don't want to lay down gold for lazy. I don't like that, because I had to work my ass off to get this. And I'm not going to put it in a neatly little wrapped up, gift wrapped box for you. You're going to work for it. And you're not going to get it from these other yahoos that want to do 5-minute trainer videos. Learn ICT's model in 5 seconds. Learn the daily bias perfectly, the ICT method, in 10 minutes. Okay, now go tell me for a month straight what the daily bias is. Because if that's what you're going to do on a title on your video, and this is what I'm doing next week, by the way, I'm going to go to that guy's video and say, I want you to show me the next 30 trading days. That's not fair, right? The next 20 trading days, because there's only 20 trading days in a month on average. You tell me what the daily bias is tomorrow before it happens. Is the close going to be above the open or below the opening? You tell me, because you're telling me and everybody else watching that you know how to do the daily bias. And you simplified what I do. I'll get deleted. That comment won't be. He's probably going into his settings right now. Okay, let me put review comments, because if an ICT shows up, I cannot have that showing up on my fucking timeline. Okay, I'll ask one of my sons to put the comment on there. And you don't know their fucking comment, the other channel, the comment from. That type of stuff irritates me. It gets under my skin. But do you think these other people out there that are making money, you think they give a fuck because you're coming to them and saying, but ICT does this, but ICT knows this and that. ICT can fucking shit fire out of his ass and fucking blow sparks from his eyeballs. All that shit doesn't mean anything to these people if they're making money. They're going to look at you as you are acting a clown. My students shouldn't be acting like that at all. You should be, you know what? Are you profitable? Wow. Are you willing to divulge what it is that you do? If they're not, it's none of your fucking business. Period. It's none of your business. You don't have any right asking anybody, go out there and do it live. Unless they say they're the best, they can do this, they can do that. Then, yeah, better prove it. You better come receipts with that, because that kind of stuff, you're begging for someone to call bullshit. And that's why I came out this year and did what I did. So don't act like an asshole. Don't go around clowning people, because number one, all that does is bring shade on me. And I didn't deserve that. I don't deserve it. I honestly believe I am the hardest working fucking educator in this industry. And that's an honest truth. And it's not an exaggeration at all. I pour more into this than anybody else. I got thousands of hours of videos that people can just click on, and it's right there. It's there. And many times in those videos, I'm calling very long-term perspectives on the market, and look around, they're there. And yes, Bitcoin is going down below 10,000. You just got to give it time. Eventually, it's going to be gone. I'll be wrong about the $100. It's going to be less than $100. Oh man, so many crypto people are like, shut the fuck up, ICT. You're going to kill me with this. I've been buying. All these people out there thinking this stuff's going to go up. Man, okay. I hope I'm wrong. I'm not. But I wanted to chit chat with you today. A little bit about some things that were causing a little chip on my shoulder. And you got the real skinny on the whole business about liquidity voids, the Chris Laurie origin, the whole thing about that. And I believe I made it very clear about my opinion about how any of you in this community or anyone else that's learned my concepts, from a third party, there's a lot of people out there teaching my shit and claiming they put people in, oh, I taught this person to be a funded trader. No, you echoed my lessons. I taught them to be a funded trader. Okay. If I take Larry Williams' book and read verbatim from the book and someone does well with that, I did not teach them. I'm an echo. Okay. So you young guys going around there claiming some bullshit like that, you need to stop that. Stop. Because it's a matter of time before I get to your channel and call bullshit. Okay. And you can block me, but I'll just make a video about you. And my reach is a little bit more than yours. So again, you have a small little window to clean your shit up. If you're an SMC trader, clean your act up. Stop all this bullshit. Because daddy's home. Until next time, be safe.